Welcome to the 3.0 Duramax Podcast, home of the 3MAX, where we talk about anything and everything 3.0 Duramax related. And that's the trucks and the SUVs and anything else that may get this engine in the future. We'll go ahead and discuss that. Now, I am Greg. I'm your host. I'm a GM technician at a local dealership. I work on these 3.0 Duramaxes all day, every day, it seems like, and I like to share my information with you. I also run the DuramaxNews.com website, where you can find a whole bunch of information in regards to maintenance items or maintenance intervals. We've got tech articles on there on how-tos. We also have service bulletins that we share on there. I also run the DemonWorks YouTube channel, which, if you're not aware, there is a ton of very in-depth stuff on there, and one of which is actually behind me. I have a 3.0 Duramax diesel engine that I just got done tearing down. It was an absolute nightmare. If you followed along on the prior podcast, number 20, then you know that I referenced that engine in there, that I was going to tear it down immediately after this podcast. Well, I started to, and everything went south. We're going to go ahead and discuss that a little bit right here. But like I said, the DemonWorks YouTube channel is going to have that full video. It's going to take me a little bit to get it all edited and put up there, but we'll have little segments in there. I'm working on a whole lot of videos off of that engine that are going to be really helpful. So if you're not following the DemonWorks YouTube channel, highly recommend that you do so. Now, today we are going to talk about the 26 trans cooler is different. We're going to talk about the seized injector on my engine. And yes, spoiler alert, I had 4 seized injectors on there and it was a nightmare. I also have 10 questions that came from you guys because, like I said, every once in a while I like to grab a couple of them. Well, this time we're doing 10 of them, and these were all taken from the prior podcast. I figure they're the most recent questions that you guys have. I'm going to go ahead and try to answer them as best as I can and then create a little bit of a discussion. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them up on any of the forums where you found this podcast, be it YouTube video or Spotify, Apple, and we'll try to get there. If you have any questions that you want to ask over the phone, there is a phone number listed in the description, and you can leave a voicemail, and we just may select that voicemail and play it in a future episode and actually answer that question specifically for you. So for now, let's go ahead and get into our main topics right before we do the questions, but one of which is the 2026 transmission cooler has changed for the Silverado Sierra trucks. Now, it appears that they are running the SUV style cooler, whereas you bolt in the lines to the sides. Prior years, you would actually have quick disconnects on there with little clips, and they were kind of a pain in the butt to do. So this actually makes it easier, but I want to let you guys all know, because if you go to demonworkshop.com and you go to buy one of these transmission coolers, which we absolutely appreciate everybody that's purchasing through us. We're trying to ship things out as quick as possible, and typically it's the same day. And like I said, we appreciate your assistance and helping us keep this channel going, because your purchases help us continue this whole process of sharing information. So with that being said, we do have 10 of these transmission coolers on their way right now. They're on it's a freight delivery, so those should be delivered any day now, and we'll have those on hand ready to ship out immediately. Now, what I've learned is the transmission coolers are huge sellers. That's the truck side. And now with the 26s, you guys got to know that if you're going to order a transmission cooler for your truck, you're going to need the SUV style, which is clearly listed in the description on there. So just so you know, make sure you pick up the correct one. It does not appear that there are any sizing differences between the two. It's more of just how it bolts up to the sides. So just want it to be known. Let's talk about my engine that I tore down. Now, it's Sunday today, and last Sunday was when I started doing it. It might have been Saturday, last Saturday. So anyway, I'm starting to tear it down. I'm videoing everything, trying to be as thorough as possible, because I want to provide as much information and clear footage as absolutely possible. I think I'm running 4 cameras total. So if we don't have good footage, then we got big problems. But speaking of big problems, as I was going down and I got to the fuel injectors, I found that number 1 was pretty hard to get out. Number 2 had a bunch of soot popping through it. And that one, actually, I thought that was going to be the tough one, but turns out those 2 were the easy ones. Numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. I absolutely could not get those out. So what I did was I got some WD-40, because it's all that I had in the garage. I soaked it, let it sit overnight, try to get them free. Not happening. They're not coming loose. So I went ahead and got Archoil, which is supposed to be the absolute best at penetrating for bolts and whatnot. So I figured that it would be the same for these injectors. Nope, it took a whole week for me to get these out. Now what I did was I was beating on it with a sledgehammer, trying to twist the injectors, and you'll see in the video footage, it's pretty nasty. These would not come free. I got them to turn maybe a quarter of a turn, and I figured if we just kept going back and forth, it would free them up. Not the case. So I ended up having to cut the tops off of the injectors so that way I can pull off the cam carrier assembly itself, and then I was able to pull the cylinder head off with the fuel injector still on there. So it's a pretty neat sight. It took me a whole week to get to that, but granted, I'm doing this after work, working on this each night, but you can still see it behind me. If you're watching the video podcast, the engine is behind me. Everything is torn down. I'm grateful that I have this size of a garage where I can do this and then still be able to park the Corvette inside. So I'm just absolutely ecstatic because I'm not in a hurry. I did do one video where I tore down an LM2, and I had to do that same day. Tear it down, put it back together the same day. I also have an LZ0 that I tore down, and I only had hours. We're talking like 3 or 4 hours where I tore that engine down, had to get it back together, and shipped back to where I was borrowing it from. Now, with that being said, I do have a potential chance to have an LZ0 that's going to come home with me this week, and that's going to be another one of those situations where it's got to be torn down same day, rip that thing apart, put it back together. But we're going to look at that thrust bearing, and we're going to see if we can see anything on this one. This engine is not complete lockup failure, so I'm really hopeful that the thrust bearing is still in place, that it hasn't fallen out, that it's just excessive movement. I don't know what we're going to get out of this, but I'm real excited for that. So let's go ahead and get into our questions that we have. And this one is from Jared. Thanks for posting that up. Now, if you guys want to ask your own questions, you could send them through Duramax News. I also have an email on there. There's a phone number that you could call to leave the voicemail. I know I already said that earlier, but I just want to make sure that you guys know, because if you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything, feel free to share it with me. I don't mind the super basic questions. I don't mind the in-depth questions as well. Typically, honestly, the in-depth questions, though, can get a little, I get a little sideways on there because I like to go deep on stuff. Again, this is from Jared. Hey, Greg, thanks for posting all this information for the LM2 LZ0 community. I started using Archoil 6500 fuel additive recently, and my fuel economy has been worse over 3 tanks of fuel since I started. Have you seen fuel economy get worse before it gets better? I mainly started using because of lubricity concerns, not fuel economy concerns. I'm sure you would agree that our ULSD fuel now is not adequate to protect the fuel pump, high pressure fuel rail, and injectors. My truck is a 25 AT4 LZ0 at 12,500 miles. Thanks. Again, that's from Jared. All right, so I am a huge fan of the Archoil. I used that in a video to test some cleaning abilities, and it actually resolved my issue at that time when I was having regens that were frequently happening. Now, I have never really noticed any fuel economy differences when I'm running any sort of additive, whether it's Archoil. I'm a huge fan of Archoil because that's the only one that I've personally seen actually work. And I actually worked with them a little bit where they gave a discount code, DemonWorks, if you order through Archoil, just saying that that's an affiliate link. And so we do have that relationship. I have moved to Exxon Fuel, which actually has additives already added into it, and I've been testing that. My fuel economy, even with that fuel, as well as the Archoil, I don't notice any fuel economy differences. I like the peace of mind of adding the extra lubrication into the system, which is also what it sounds like you are after. But with your fuel economy getting worse, I'm not totally sure what the cause of that is. It could just be different driving conditions. The temperature has been warming up, so maybe the AC is running quite a bit more. There's a whole lot of variables on there, but I would pay close attention to it. But with you saying that your fuel economy went down, I don't know if that's like a 5 mile per gallon difference or if we're just talking about 1 mile per gallon. And if it's 5 miles per gallon, there may be a greater issue in there and it may need to be looked at. Now, you also only have 12,500 miles, so the truck should be mostly broken in, but you should, at this point, you should know what to expect out of your fuel economy. So if you're noticing less fuel economy on there, then that is kind of a little bit of a red flag as to what's going on. Maybe stop using that fuel treatment and just seeing if it comes back up. And then that will kind of tell you if it's related to the Archoil or not. I don't see why the Archoil would hurt your fuel economy, but I mean, anything is possible. So I would say maybe go ahead and give it a couple tanks of without running it and seeing what happens. All right, this next one is from Kurt. Hi, Greg. I have a 23 Suburban LM2. I use it to tow my 5,000-pound camper. I like it for towing. I did install a Banks iDash, my first diesel. My question is, should you let the truck run to cool the turbo down after towing? I really like your channel. I'm learning a lot of great info on your channel. Thanks, Kurt. Awesome. I'm a huge fan of Banks as well as the Banks iDash. And again, I do have a discount code with Banks because we do work together. And I am a humongous fan of the iDash. I love seeing all the data on there. And so it appears that you do as well. And the question that you have on here, well, let me go back to the Banks iDash. If you guys are looking for a Banks iDash, check out my videos. I show a lot of detailed information on there. And I do have a discount code. It is DemonWorks, and that'll save you a little bit, and it'll also give the channel a little bit back. So I'm just throwing that out there. That's our affiliate discount code with Banks. But going down to this question, you're an old school driver, and I could tell that because you're asking about cooling down the turbo, which is an old school thing that a lot of people don't do. And I am one of those that do prefer to do that. And I like to watch the Banks iDash. I monitor my EGT1, and I will let it drop down to around 500 degrees before I do fully shut the truck down. If I'm towing and I go to a fuel station, I will sit there and idle for a little bit and let those temperatures come down. Whether or not you have to, our oils are better nowadays, so technically you don't have to, and the oils are supposed to withstand those temperatures and just shutting down. But I don't like the idea of that. I like to send cooler oil through and allow the turbo to cool down as well as the rest of the engine. So yes, I do allow the truck to cool down and let it idle. That's a great question, and I know a lot of people don't do that. They just go and fire it up, shut it off like once it's hot. And that's okay too, because the truck is designed to be able to just be a normal driver like that. And the same is with the regen. I don't like to shut off the truck whenever I'm in the middle of a regen, and that's why I also like the iDash, because I know when I'm doing regens, and then I can go and try to complete it if possible. But I absolutely do not like shutting the truck off in the middle of a regen, and I do not like to shut the truck off when it's hot after towing. So awesome question. Hopefully that helps out some other people out there. Let me know your guys' opinions. Are you shutting your truck off immediately while you're towing? I'd honestly like to know just how many people out there are just, I don't care. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this, but there's just that extra little bit of cooling I personally like. But let me know. Do you guys shut it down immediately, or do you just let it idle for a little bit? All right, my next one is from Ricky Racer. Greg, I have a 25 GMC 1500 3.0 with a max tow package. I purchased it 14 months ago and have 33,000 miles. That's crazy. That is good. I have about 13,000 miles of towing my 6,500-pound trailer. I've been traveling the country on a bucket list trip. That is awesome. That is way awesome. I think that's a lot of people's like dream right there, and that's cool that you're doing that. I usually tow at 55 to 60 miles per hour to get 12.5 to 15 miles per gallon and not overheat the truck. Well, yesterday the engine light went on, and today I'm getting a new turbo installed. Any thoughts on this? Thanks for your great YouTube channel. Oh man. All right, so the 25s and 26s have somewhat of a known issue where there's a thrust bearing issue with it, and this may be signs of that. However, you made it to 33,000 miles, and most of them don't even make it that far. Now, going back to just it being an LZ0, those typically do burn through turbos quicker than the LM2s do, but it's not like a super severe issue. So it's not out of the norm in order to have a turbocharger failure. Now, there is a bulletin that GM put out that the technician must replace that oil feed and return line. So hopefully they see that. Hopefully they put in that new oil feed line. Now, there is a filter inside there, and there's some talk amongst the internet about removing that filter. I'm not one that believes in removing that filter. However, if it got clogged up with debris, I'm talking about on the oil feed line, then that could be starving your turbocharger of oil. So unfortunately, if you have metal building up in there, there may be further issues down the way as far as the engine goes. And I absolutely hope not. I hope you just had a turbo that just went south. Maybe go back to my prior question that I just answered, where we were talking about allowing the truck to cool down. I don't think you're towing too much. I don't think you're driving too fast. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. You're using the truck for what it was used for, and you may have just had a generic turbo issue. I don't know your maintenance intervals on there. Maybe the maintenance intervals are too far out. Maybe you're consuming oil and the engine oil level is low, and that's causing an issue. I would just say when you go to get fuel, whenever you're at your stops, pull the dipstick, take a look at your engine oil, make sure that everything's good on that. But there's really not much that you can do. And this hopefully isn't a larger issue, and I wish you luck. But I do envy you for doing your bucket list trip here. I think that's awesome. Feel free to comment where you're at. I think it'd be fun to kind of follow along to see where you're at as you go. All right, I've got, so this is 2 different people asking a similar question. Do you know of a source for a magnetic oil pan plug for the new style oil pan? I ordered 2 and both were too large. Thanks, Mac. And then I got another one. Did I say the oil pan bolt is trash from GM? OMG, what a nightmare. And that's from Tagwin. Absolutely, it is. So what we're talking about here are 2 different engine oil pans. I did a video where GM came out with an updated engine oil pan for the 26 trucks, and I went ahead and put that on my truck. It also has a different pickup too. Along with that comes a smaller in diameter. It's an M10 bolt. I actually have it written down. M10 by 1.5 thread for that drain plug. That is hard to find, and that's what the first question was from Mac. The second question, well, not really a question, but just really, it is informative, but they are trash. The original drain plugs, they are super short for the head, and it's real tough to get off. And if you go to any lube shops or anything like that, a lot of times they round those out and strip them out, and that's a huge problem. So I do offer the PPE drain plug. There's a replacement, and it's roughly 20 bucks for that drain plug. I also have spoken about Amazon drain plug that gives a larger head, offers a magnet on there, and that's like 7 bucks. Links are going to be in the description of this. You can get the Amazon one, you can get the PPE one. The PPE one just looks nicer, it's higher quality, and it's cool. So it depends on how much you want to spend. I like the PPE one, but in the past I ran the Amazon one, so both are totally fine. Now that thread pitch for the older style, that I'm talking 2020 to 2025, that's M12 by 1.75. The new 26 oil pans, those went to a M10 by 1.5. So in my search, there's only one company that is making this drain plug, and it's a pricey one. It's 30 bucks. But it's made in USA, and it has a magnet on there, and it looks pretty awesome. I ordered it for my pan, and it's on the way. I don't have it just yet, but that one is from Votex. And I'm going to reach out to them to see, maybe they'll give us a deal. Maybe there's a discount code or something that they can offer to you guys if you want to go ahead and pick up one of those drain plugs. I think that'd be awesome if they did. All right, next question is from Dad Mode Garage. I currently have a 22.5 3-liter in my Sierra. My wife commutes about 90 miles a day just for work, and then another 20 to 40 on top of that throughout the day. She wants a full-size SUV, and I'm looking at either a Tahoe or a Yukon. What years of those would you be looking at? I know the years of the LM2 and LZ0 don't correspond with the Sierra. All right, so 25 is when the SUVs got the LZ0. And honestly, the LM2 and the SUVs, we rarely see them. I rarely see them. So the LM2s, I don't think you can go wrong with any one of these. If you buy the LM2 or the LZ0, it comes down to your price point. If you want to spend a lot more money and get the LZ0, because that comes with the revised body style, then so be it. But the LM2 is fantastic in those. I actually have somebody that we've spoken through email. He's local. He's well over 200,000 miles with his, I believe it's a Suburban, and he's doing great. I actually want to interview him a little bit to get more details as far as everything goes with that 200,000+ mile SUV. But SUVs, I don't think there's a wrong one to get. It's not like the 2020 trucks where they had a whole bunch of learning to do on that engine and they made adjustments on 2020. When the SUV got the 3.0, they were all good to go, in my opinion. So we're not seeing issues like we are of the past. So I don't think you can really do anything wrong with whichever selection. Get whichever fits your budget the best. All right, next question is from Mike. I understand that this is not going along with your show, but I was just inquiring. I have a 21 Crew Cab Z71 Duramax 3.0, and I have 226,000 miles on it, started leaking oil. GM dealer had stated to me that it needs to be resealed. The cost of that was $1,000 less than just putting a new engine in the truck. Why would this engine need to be pulled to be resealed, or is this just a scam? Mike. All right, Mike, so no scam at all. That is an accurate way to go, and these engines really aren't that expensive. The labor is expensive, and that's where a lot of the money comes into place. So if you have an engine oil leak from the front, you have an engine oil leak from the bottom and the back side and the top side, absolutely that engine's going to come out. And if you're taking it all apart to do all that, you really should look into a replacement engine like what they're suggesting, because now you have a big manufacturer warranty. The new engine comes with fuel injectors, a fuel pump, all sorts of goodies, and a better warranty than just the labor. So I would definitely lean towards going with that new engine. I know that wasn't your question, but you're asking if this is a scam. No, it's a lot of work in order to get everything resealed, and it depends on the level of oil leaks on there. Plus the parts add up, and absolutely, I think unfortunately, that's the way that it is with these engines, is that they can be costly as far as maintenance go, or not maintenance, but as far as labor goes. And so unfortunately, that is the situation with this one. So I don't think they're scamming you by any means, but yeah, unfortunately, that's what it is. I would lean towards that engine. Also, look into possibly engine harness. If you've had prior repairs of your engine harness, now is a good time to get a replacement harness. I also suggest that you get a new turbo whenever you add on, or when you replace the engine. It's nice to have everything just nice and fresh, and then nothing to worry about. Moving on to the next one from Jonathan. Craig, how's the MOTUL oil working out? Thinking of swapping. Amazon had it for 60 bucks for 5 quarts. I've always used AMSOIL, but they have gone up a bit. My MOTUL is currently, so I ran the original amount of MOTUL in the engine oil pan with the new oil pan. I ran 2,000 miles. I drained it out. Did not get any analysis on that, and I'm running a fresh 7 quarts of oil, actually roughly 7.5 quarts, because I'm running the PPE engine oil filter. But I've only got about 1,000, maybe 1,500 miles on that, so it's going to be a little bit before we send that out for oil analysis. I did this because I wanted to get all the old oil flushed out of this system, and I think this is going to get us a quick jump start to our oil analysis. Typically, when I'm running engine oil analysis before, I would do 2 different tests where we would run the oil for 4,000 to 5,000 miles, do a test, and then fresh oil, 4,000 to 5,000 miles, do a test. And that second one is the one that I trust the most. So in this case, we're already on that second one. So it's going to be a little bit. I would say we're going to tow mid-July, and that'll probably be the end of it. So I would say roughly early August is probably when we're going to see that oil analysis. All right, this question comes from Adam. I had an over-the-air update, code P2002. Local dealer charged me $200. Being a bulletin was sent out, do you know if people are getting a credit back for the over-the-air error? This is one that you need to talk to your service manager, call them up and let them know about that bulletin. If you're not familiar, guys, on what we're talking about here is the prior podcast, I discussed how in a podcast before that, the P2002 was popping up from people getting over-the-air update, and then that code would pop up. Now, GM put out a bulletin after our podcast, and I'm not saying that they put it out because of our podcast. It was just because a lot of people had the same concern. But what it said was to just clear the code and ship it. Now, in this person's case, Adam's case, he went in, took it in there, and did just that and had to pay $200, which I don't think is fair to Adam. And obviously, we don't know the full detail of everything, but with what you're giving me here, I absolutely think you should contact the service manager. I personally don't think that you should have been charged for that. Had they known about the bulletins, I check bulletins every single morning, and I look for new information. And unfortunately, if you had somebody that did the same, then they would have known. It's just a quick clear and go. So you being charged $200 for that, I don't know. I think I can't speak for my dealership. I can't speak for other dealerships, but my opinion, absolutely, I think you should give the service manager a call and see if you can get that back, because it is a known issue with GM, and it was caused by a GM over-the-air update. Absolutely not your fault. That's my opinion. Who knows what they're going to do for you, but I would absolutely reach out. All right, last question here is from Gunter Living. Hey, I have a quick question. I have a 22.5 3.0 Duramax. I recently did a fuel filter change after 8,000 miles and 1 year interval. I usually change it every year since I don't drive much. I noticed some metal flakes inside my filter housing. Is this normal? What should I do? I'm still under the manufacturer's warranty. Do I necessarily have to wait for my truck to give me a fault to have them replace it? I took a picture of the fuel sample if you'd like to see it. I appreciate your channel. Thank you. All right, so we actually exchanged pictures through email, and the reason why I selected this question was so that way I can update you guys in case anybody was following along on this. Now, when I got the pictures sent from Gunter Living, I noticed that the pictures had the fuel bowl with fuel still in it. And what that told me was that when they did the fuel filter, they had the bowl up, right? And they pulled the fuel filter off. And then when doing that, a lot of the debris can fall off from the fuel filter and into the fuel bowl, which then when you look into there, it gives the perception that all of this dirt and all this nastiness was actually inside there. So I let them know of a bulletin that came out. I think it's through GM TechLink. Has the information on the best way to do it. You tip the fuel filter bowl upside down, pull the fuel filter off that way, and it drains out all that. Then if you flip it upright and then you shine a flashlight in there and you're looking for little sparklies in there, typically I find that most fuel filters that we pull off have a little bit of something inside there. It's kind of just the way that it is. When it starts to get excessive, that's when you may have a problem. But what this is telling me is the filter is doing its job by keeping it from going through the system. And unfortunately, yes, you cannot just go in there and say, hey, look at this picture, replace this or that. You're going to need a actual issue, a symptom of some sort in order to go in there. But what I would do, what I suggested in this case, since it was a very small amount that I saw inside there and we saw the fuel filter setup, I suggested next fuel filter, do the removal the way that I suggested, or as the GM TechLink suggested, and then go ahead and look inside there. If it seems like it's getting worse, then contact your dealership, let them know that you're doing your own fuel filter and this is what you're noticing, and see what they have to say. They may want to do a fuel filter change themselves, so you may need to just wait the extra amount of time, go back, and go from there. I do want to tell you that there is a chance that there is a failure starting from the fuel pump inside the tank. And if that's the case, that pump, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty confident it's only covered 3 or 36,000 miles. So you may actually already be out of that anyway, but you may need to contact the dealer and let them know, see what they want to do. As long as you have all your maintenance records, you doing your own service shouldn't be of any issue at all. But hopefully this helps out other people out there as well. And I thank you guys for sending in your questions over to me. I do enjoy answering questions. I answer a lot. I enjoy everybody that's purchasing through our website, demonworkshop.com. You're keeping us going. And yeah, so till next time, see ya.